Science Biz is here with Chapter 2, Is Matter Around Us Pure? Class 9, Chemistry Part. Let's have an introduction about the chapter. What is meant by a pure substance? A pure substance contains only one type of substance, that can be one type of atom, molecule or compound. As an example, pure water is a pure substance, but seawater also contains dissolved salts as well as other dissolved substances, which are referred to as impurity. Scientists need pure substances to study their properties. Food and medicines have to be tested for purity before they are sold, as any impurity in them could be harmful or poisonous. A pure solid has fixed and exact melting point. Presence of an impurity lowers the melting point and causes a substance to melt over a range of temperatures. For example, addition of salt to ice. Pure ice melts at exactly 0 degrees Celsius at atmospheric pressure. When salt is added, it lowers the melting point to values between -5 degrees Celsius to -25 degrees Celsius, depending upon the quantity of salt added. This is why in cold countries, salt is spread on icy roads in winter to melt the ice. Let's begin the chapter, Is Matter Around Us Pure? So, what is a pure substance? They do not have any impurity. That means it consists of only one type of particle. It can be atom or it can be molecule. So that means same type of atoms or same type of molecule. So we can say elements are the pure substance in nature, and total there are 118 elements, as they are made up of only one kind of atoms. And if we consider molecules, you know it that millions of molecules are there. For example, consider water molecule. All the water is made up of water molecule. Next example, salt, NaCl. We can say it's made up of NaCl molecule. Similarly, if we consider acid, that is hydrochloric acid, HCl, we can say it is made up of HCl molecule. So we can say it's made up of same composition mixed each other in a fixed proportion. And it all behave like one particle. That's why it's known as pure substance. So we can say that elements and compounds they are pure substances, and if we mix together we will get a mixture. So now, how do we judge whether milk, ghee, butter, salt, spices, mineral water or juice that we buy from the market are pure? Have you ever noticed the word pure written on the packs of these consumables? For a common person, pure means having no adulteration. But for a scientist, all these things are actually mixtures of different substances and hence not pure. So can we say, is matter around us pure? No, we cannot say, right? Milk is actually a mixture of water, fat, proteins, sugar, etc. When a scientist says that something is pure, it means that all the constituent particles of that substance are the same in their chemical nature. So a pure substance consists of a simple type of particles. Next is, so we can say matter can be classified as pure substances and mixture. So what is a mixture? Mixture means it do not have exact properties, as their composition can vary. Because of this, they do not have fixed melting and boiling points. For example, we can say petrol is a mixture, and it has a boiling point within the range of 35 degrees Celsius to 75 degrees Celsius. And another example, we can say candle wax. That's a paraffin wax. It's also a mixture and it has a melting point within the range of 50 degrees Celsius to 60 degrees Celsius. So, we can conclude mixtures do not have fixed melting and boiling points. And mixtures are formed by physical change only. So, because of this, they are easy to separate into pure substances. So, this process is called purification and can be achieved by simple physical method like dissolving, filtering, evaporating, distillation and chromatography. So what's a mixture? Mixtures are constituted by more than one kind of pure form of matter known as a substance. So, for example, if we consider a mixture of sugar and sand, if we increase the volume of sugar or sand, we can say the mixture remains the same. So in a mixture, component can be present in any proportion. Same way, if we take common salt NaCl in a glass of water, we can say we will get salt solution, right? Yes. If we put mud in a glass of water, we will get a mixture of solid particles after stirring. So here, mud will get dispersed in water. So we can say, for example, in salt and sugar, in water, there is no particle to settle down, right? But in mud and water, what happens? The mud will settle down. Here the mud settles down. So it shows that mixtures have different composition. So that's about the mixture. Next we are going to learn about types of mixtures. Depending upon the nature of the components that form a mixture, we can have different types of mixtures. Let's learn one by one. Let's learn in detail about the types of mixtures. Depending upon the nature of the components that form a mixture, we can have different types of mixtures like homogeneous and heterogeneous mixtures. Let's divide the class into groups A, B, C and D. Group A takes a beaker containing 50 ml of water and one spatula full of copper sulfate powder. Group B takes 50 ml of water and two spatula full of copper sulfate powder in a beaker. Group C and D can take different amounts of copper sulfate and potassium permanganate or common salt, sodium chloride, and mix the given components to form a mixture. Report the observations on the uniformity in color and texture. Here, Group A and B have obtained a mixture which has a uniform composition throughout. Such mixtures are called homogeneous mixtures or solutions. Some other examples of homogeneous mixtures are salt in water, sugar in water, etc. Compare the color of the solutions of the two groups. Though both the groups have obtained copper sulfate solution, but what happened? The intensity of the color of the solution is different. This shows that, remember the point, a homogeneous mixture can have a variable composition. Next, groups C and D have obtained mixtures which contain physically distinct parts and have non-uniform compositions. Such mixtures are called heterogeneous mixtures. Examples: mixtures of sodium chloride and iron fillings, salt and sulfur, oil and water, etc. Next is about the activity which is related to the solution, suspensions and colloid. Let's again divide the class into four groups A, B, C and D. Distribute the following samples to each group. Few crystals of copper sulfate to group A, one spatula full of copper sulfate to group B, chalk powder or wheat flour to group C, and few drops of milk or ink to group D. Each group should add the given sample in water and stir properly using a glass rule. Are the particles in the mixture visible? Direct a beam of light from a torch to the beaker containing the mixture and observe from the front. Was the path of the beam of light visible? Leave the mixtures undisturbed for a few minutes and set up the filtration apparatus in the meantime here. Is the mixture stable or do the particles begin to settle after some time? Filter the mixture. Is there any residue on the filter paper? Discuss the results and form an opinion. So, we are going to learn in detail about solutions, suspensions and colloid to find out the answer for this activity. Let's check out the questions over here. What is meant by a pure substance? A pure substance already we have discussed. It's made up of only one type of atom or molecule, and we can say that substance is free from any kind of mixture as it contains only one kind of particle. And the physical properties of a pure substance include well-defined melting and boiling points. List the points of difference between homogeneous and heterogeneous mixtures. Homogeneous mixtures. Let's check out about homogeneous mixtures. It has uniform composition throughout its mass. It has no variable boundaries of separation between the various constituents. The constituents of a homogeneous mixture cannot be seen easily. They consist of only one phase. For example, sugar and water mix together to form a homogeneous mixture called sugar solution. Next, difference of heterogeneous mixture. It does not have a uniform composition throughout its mass. It has visible boundaries of separation between the various constituents. The constituents of a heterogeneous third point, the constituents of a heterogeneous mixture can usually be seen easily. They consist of more than one phase. For example, a mixture of water and sand is a heterogeneous mixture. So, we have learnt about the types of mixtures, homogeneous and heterogeneous mixtures. Next is, what is a solution? Solution is a mixture of two or more substances in a single phase. We can say the substance in largest amount is called solvent and the smallest amount is called solute. A solution is a homogeneous mixture of two or more substances. You come across various types of solutions in your daily life. Lemonade, soda water, etc. are examples of solutions. Usually when we think of a solution as a liquid that contains either a solid, liquid or a gas dissolved in it. But we can also have solid solution, that's the alloys, and gaseous solution, that's the air. In a solution, there is homogeneity at the particle level. For example, lemonade tastes the same throughout. This shows that particles of sugar or salt are evenly distributed in the solution. And when we consider the particle size, solutions are very small particles when compared to a colloid. Colloid we are going to learn. And it's transparent. Next is about the alloys. What are alloys? Alloys are homogeneous mixtures of metals and cannot be separated into their components by physical method. But still, an alloy is considered as a mixture because it shows the properties of its constituents and can have variable composition. For example, brass. It's a mixture of approximately 30% zinc and 70% copper. We can check out the more examples of alloys. Bronze, copper 90% and tin 10%. Steel, iron 99.95%, carbon 0.05%. Stainless steel, iron 74%, chromium 18%, nickel 8%. A solution has a solvent and solute as its components. The component of the solution that dissolves the other component in it, usually the component present in larger amount is called the solvent. The component of the solution that is dissolved in the solvent, usually present in lesser quantity, is called the solute. For example, in a common salt solution, salt is a solute and water is a solvent. More examples. A solution sugar in water is a solid in liquid solution. So in this solution, sugar is a solute and water is a solvent. Next, take 1. A solution of the iodine alcohol known as tincture of iodine, that is alcoholic solvent. That's a solution of alcoholic solvent. It has iodine solid as a solute and alcohol, that's a liquid, as a solvent. Next, while considering aerated drinks like soda water, etc., they are gas and liquid solution. So these contain the gas carbon dioxide as solute and water, that's a liquid, as solvent. Next one, air is a mixture of gas and gas. So air is a homogeneous mixture of a number of gases. Its two main constituents are oxygen 21% and nitrogen 78%. So the other gases are present in very small quantities. Next, properties of a solution. A solution is a homogeneous mixture. The particles of a solution are smaller than 1 nanometer, that is 10 raised to power of minus 9 meter in diameter, 10 to the power of minus 9 meter in diameter. So they cannot be seen by naked eyes. Because of very small particle size, they do not scatter a beam of light passing through the solution. So the path of the light is not visible in a spectrum. So in a true solution of salt in water, we cannot see the path of light as there is little scattering of light. The solute particles cannot be separated from the mixture by the process of filtration. The solute particles do not settle down when left undisturbed, that is, a solution is stable. Next, we are going to learn about concentration of a solution. So in activity 2.2, we observe that groups A and B obtain different shades of solution. So we understand that in a solution, the relative proportion of the solute and solvent can be varied. Depending upon the amount of solute present in a solution, it can be called as dilute, concentrated, or saturated solution. Dilute and concentrated are comparative terms. In activity 2.2, the solution obtained by group A is dilute as compared to that obtained by group B. So let's consider a glass of water and add salt to it. If the salt is getting dissolved, and again we are adding, still the salt getting dissolved in it, we can call it as a unsaturated solution. So there comes a point when we are adding salt that's not getting dissolved because the water is completely filled with salt. So when we add more salt, what happens? It cannot get dissolved. So this is called saturated solution. So we'll learn now. Take approximately 50 ml of water, each in 2 separate beakers. Add salt in one beaker and sugar or barium chloride in the second beaker with continuous stirring. When no more solute can be dissolved, heat the contents of the beaker. Start adding the solute again. Is the amount of salt and sugar or barium chloride that can be dissolved in water given temperature the same? At any particular temperature, solution that has dissolved as much solute as it is capable of dissolving is said to be a saturated solution. In other words, when no more solute can be dissolved in a solution at a given temperature, it is called a saturated solution. Next is important term, what is solubility? The amount of the solute present in the saturated solution at this temperature, that's called as the solubility. If the amount of solute contained in a solution is less than the saturation level, it's called an unsaturation solution. Next, we can infer from the above activity that different substances in a given solvent have different solubilities at the same temperature. So, the concentration of a solution is the amount of solute present in a given amount, mass or volume of solution, or the amount of solute dissolved in a given mass or volume of solvent. So here is the next question. How can we make a saturated solution unsaturated? So how? By heating the solution. So what happens when we heat the salt water solution? The water particles start to move far away from them, right? Far away from each other due to the space between them increases. And then we can add more salt. So we can conclude that when we cool down saturated solution, water particles come close and space decreases and the salt start precipitating out of the solution. So that's the difference while heating and cooling down the saturated solution. Next is about the calculation of the concentration of solution. Concentration of solution is equal to amount of solute divided by amount of solution, or the amount of solute divided by amount of solvent. Before learning about in detail about the concentration of a solution, let's revise what we have learned. What's a pure substance? That means that do not have any impurity. That means only one type of particle. It can be an atom or it can be a molecule. That means same type of atoms or same type of molecules. Next we learned about mixture. What is a mixture? So we can say a mixture composed of variable proportions of different substances without have chemical bonding and have some properties as that of a component element. And a mixture has the same property of its component elements and can be separated by physical means. Next we learned about types of mixtures. So homogeneous mixture and heterogeneous mixture. Homogeneous mixture is also called as solutions. Heterogeneous mixtures are classified as suspension and colloids, which you are going to learn. Homogeneous mixture, it has same uniform appearance and composition throughout. That's why they are also commonly called as solutions. So what is a solution? It's a mixture of two or more substances in a single phase. That the substance in the largest amount is called the solvent and the smallest amount is called the solute. For example, common salt solution, water is solvent and salt is solute. Next we learned about examples of homogeneous solution, that is liquid in liquid solution, for example vinegar in water. Next, solid in liquid, common salt solution, gas in liquid, that's the example of soda water. Next we learned about, and if a true solution of a salt in water, we cannot see the path of light as there is little scattering of light. Next we learned about concentration of a solution. So concentration is the amount of solute present in a given quantity of the solution. Next we learned about saturated and unsaturated solution. So saturated solution means, for example, take a glass of water and add salt to it. If the salt is getting dissolved and still we are adding more salt and again it's getting dissolved, then we can call it as an unsaturated solution. That means there is a space to get the saturation point. But there comes a point when we are adding salt, salt is not getting dissolved because the water is completely filled with salt. So what happens when we add more salt, it cannot get dissolved. This is called saturated solution. Next, how can we make a saturated solution into unsaturated solution? That means by heating the solution. So when we heat the salt water solution, what happens? The water particles start move far away from each other due to the space between them increases. And then more salt can be added. So we can conclude, by heating the solution, saturated solution, we can change it to an unsaturated. Then when we cool down, what happens? The saturated solution, the water particles come closer and the space decreases. Right, so the dissolved salt start precipitating right out of the solution. Next, we learn about what is meant by solubility. Solubility means if the maximum number of solute that can be dissolved in 100 grams of solution. That's called as the solubility. For example, solubility of sodium chloride is 36 gram. The solubility of sugar is 204 grams. At 20 degrees Celsius, clear, we can say we have 100 gram of water. Maximum sugar we can dissolve is 204 grams. So we can say lesser the temperature, less is the solubility. So next we will learn in detail about the calculation of concentration of a solution. There are various ways of expressing the concentration of solution, but here we will learn only two methods. Mass by mass percentage of a solution, that's mass of solute by mass of solution into 100. Next is mass by volume percentage of a solution, mass of solute by volume of solution into 100. So here a solution contains 40 grams of common salt into 320 grams of water. So because here it's a gram as we have taken the mass. Calculate the concentration in terms of mass by mass percentage of the solution. Mass of solute, salt, is equal to 40 grams. Mass of solvent, that's the water, 320 grams. So how we'll find the mass of solution? Mass of solute plus mass of solvent, that is 40 grams plus 320 grams, that's 360 grams. So the mass percentage solution is equal to mass of solute divided by mass of solution into 100, that is 40 by 360 into 100, that is equal to 11.1%. Let's check out one more example. A solution contains 30 grams of sugar, which is added in 370 grams of water. So calculate the concentration in terms of mass by mass percentage solution. So here, mass of solute is equal to, that means sugar, 30 grams, solvent, 370 grams. So the mass of solution is equal to mass of solute plus mass of solvent, that's equal to 400 grams. So mass percentage solution is equal to 30 divided by 400 into 100, that's equal to 7.5%. Next, we are going to learn in detail about what is meant by suspension. So already we have completed homogeneous mixture. Now we are going to learn in detail about heterogeneous mixtures. Heterogeneous mixtures are classified as suspension and colloid. So the homogeneous mixture, non-homogeneous systems like those obtained by group C in activity 2.2, in which solids are dispersed in liquids, are called suspensions. And a suspension is a heterogeneous mixture in which the solute particle did not dissolve but remain suspended throughout the bulk of the medium. So particles of a suspension are visible to the naked eye. So we can say particle size, it's a large particles when compared to a solution. Solution is very small particles and they are transparent. And here the particle size are large when compared to a solution and it's translucent or opaque. So let's check out the properties of a suspension. Suspension is a heterogeneous mixture. The particle of a suspension can be seen by the naked eye. The particles of a suspension scatter a beam of light passing through it and makes its path visible. The solute particles settle down when a suspension is left undisturbed. So we can say a suspension is unstable and they can be separated from the mixture by the process of filtration. For example, we can say muddy water in suspension. Right here the mud settles down. Next is about what is meant by colloidal solution. So what are colloids? Colloids are heterogeneous but they appear like homogeneous mixture. For example, milk. So we can say what is colloidal solution. The mixture obtained by group D in activity of 2.2 is called a colloid or colloidal solution. The particles of a colloid are uniformly spread throughout the solution. So due to a relatively smaller size of particles as compared to that of a suspension, the mixture appears to be homogeneous, but actually a colloidal solution is a heterogeneous mixture. For example, milk. Because of the smaller size of the colloidal particles, we cannot see them with naked eye, but these particles can easily scatter a beam of visible light. Beam of visible light as observed in the activity. This scattering of a beam of light is called the Tyndall effect after the name of the scientist who discovered this effect. So Tyndall effect means it's a scattering effect in colloid and it was explained by the physicist, that is John Tyndall, and it's called as the Tyndall effect. So in case of suspension, what happens? Light does not pass through it. Tyndall effect can be observed here. When a fine beam of light enters a room through a small hole, this happens due to the scattering of light by the particles of dust and smoke in the air. Here, solution copper sulfate does not show Tyndall effect Mixture of water and milk shows Tiktaalik.